Now, before anybody says anything, I want to make this perfectly clear. These are just my opinions as to what I believe the future could lie in store for AEW. In other words, where I believe AEW could potentially, keyword potentially, land should WarnerMedia and the Turner Networks not renew their contracts with them after 2023 and the optional 2024. Again, these are just my opinions as to where I think potentially, where the future may lie for AEW as far as broadcast television or cable television is concerned. So with that said, let's get started. Now, currently, AEW Dynamite and very soon AEW Rampage are and will be airing on TNT, and then eventually, at the beginning of next year, move over to TBS. But with that said, the contract still states, as far as we know, that they have until 2023 and potentially and optionally 2024 to renew the contract to remain on there. But with the announcement that WarnerMedia and Discovery are merging together, and rumors going around that this merger could lead to maybe a bigger sale to somebody else down the line, the question obviously is, where could AEW land if WarnerMedia, through this merger with Discovery Family, which is expected to be finalized by the middle of next year, and any potential sale as the merged group altogether to somebody else, basically, where would AEW land if overall they're not in the cards, for this merger and potential rumored sale to somebody bigger after the merger down the line? Well, that's what I want to come on here and do. I want to list off 5 potential places that I think AEW could land, should WarnerMedia not renew a contract status, an extension, if you will, for another couple of years with AEW for both Dynamite, Rampage, and the quarterly Clash of Champion-like style specials that they may be, or that they are going to be getting this year, next year, and up to, like, say, 2023, 2024. So with that said, here are my 5, potential landing spots for them should they not remain with WarnerMedia after 2023, 2024, which a lot of people I'm sure watching this would say they're going to be remaining there no matter what. And look, I'm not disagreeing with that. The viewership and the ratings they're getting with the run on TNT right now, the addition of Rampage, and then the increase in viewership and everything when they move to TBS, it's all a plus for them. And WarnerMedia is seemingly solidly behind them. But again, you have that merger with Discovery Communications, or Discovery Inc., I should say, on the verge of happening in the middle of next year. And that could change a lot of things as far as who's calling the shots and everything as to what they feel potentially, is a good, fit for the new directive that they want to go in the near future. And again, if there are if I should say the rumors are expected to be believed, there is a good chance that this merger between Discovery and WarnerMedia could lead to an even bigger sale to another bigger conglomerate down the line, but we shall see. But with that said, though, guys, these are just my choices, my picks as potential landing spots should AEW be removed from the WarnerMedia lineup after 2023 and 2024, if they basically are, pretty much decided by WarnerMedia and Discovery merger stockholders and all them not to kind of fit into what they potentially have as a vision for the future. So again, these are just my thoughts. These are just my potential landing spots for them should that not happen. Now, the first choice, obviously, to me, and I thought about this, when I kind of was trying to think, what would be like the number one landing spot outside of the Turner Networks, outside of WarnerMedia, when it comes to AEW programming, that being Dynamite and Rampage, the quarterly, Clash of Champion-like specials, and any other future potential programs they may have, planned to debut in the coming years. And this stuck out to me as being like the number one landing spot. And that, of course, is the Paramount Network, formerly known as Spike TV, formerly known as TNN, the National Network, the Nashville Network, you name it. And the reason I believe this could potentially be the number one landing spot for them, should basically they not remain with WarnerMedia after Discovery merger is finalized and any other potential sales, rumored wise, could happen down the line. It's because of the history overall that the Paramount Network has with wrestling. I know some of you might say that I know some of you might say that it's not going to happen. They're going to remain with WarnerMedia. They're going to remain on TBS, on TNT. Nothing's going to change. Don't lie. Don't start rumors and all that. Look, I understand that. And you have all the right to believe that, the Turner Networks and WarnerMedia will want to keep them on board, even after the merger. I get that. But again, like I said, this is just my opinion of potential areas where they can land. And the number one, like I said, is Paramount. And mainly the reason I say the Paramount Network could be a potential landing spot, if not the number one, is because, like I said, they have a history of wrestling. When they were Spike TV, they had, of course, WWF or WWE, Monday Night Raw, as well as they had later on TNA, now known as Impact Wrestling. They had that on their network for quite some time, a lot longer, believe it or not, than they did the WWE, WWF programming. So they have a history with this. They also have a history, even before that, by broadcasting ECW, as part of TNN when it was known as the Nashville Network. So again, this network, this channel, this cable station, has a history of, being associated with wrestling and getting some good viewership numbers because of that. So in my opinion, should, WarnerMedia and the Turner Networks decide after the merger with Discovery Family that AEW doesn't fit into the future, then I believe the number one landing spot for them right off the bat has to be the Paramount Network. Because in addition to that, you also have the Paramount Plus streaming service, and should that still be around when this potential situation occurs, you could take all the AEW shows and put them, Dynamite and Rampage and the Clash of Champions like specials, and put them onto the streaming services almost immediately after they aired. Or kind of like what they do with, CBS's special programming when it comes to things like the Grammys or the Kennedy Honors or whatever special presentation they may come up with. They usually put it on the Paramount Plus streaming service almost immediately around basically a few hours, if not immediately after it airs. Sometimes they simulcast it as well. If you're on the road and you want to watch a live broadcast of a special like the Kennedy Honors or the Grammys or whatever, you could watch it on your portable device, whether it be your phone or your iPad or whatever the case may be. You can watch it live as it happens while you're on the road. And, for AEW, that could be something that would be really in their favor, because not only would they be able to get viewership off Paramount Network, but simultaneously they could get viewership, through the streaming apps, or through the streaming app of the Paramount Plus service. And it's a win-win when you really think about it. So to me, the number one landing spot, should WarnerMedia, not, have AEW in its cards after this Discovery merger is finalized next year, and any potential rumored, sale of the merged entity, happens or doesn't happen or is cleared up. I truly believe that the number one landing spot for them outside of the WarnerMedia Turner Network situation, should they not be renewed there, it has to be Paramount. It has to be Paramount Network. Not only because of its history of wrestling in general as a whole, but mostly because it has the Paramount Plus service, and that's a win-win when you think about it, no matter what. All right, so the second choice, in my opinion, is a cable channel right now that currently houses one of the more successful and one of the more viewed wrestling documentaries out there, or behind-the-scenes documentaries out there. And I believe with its inclusion of Major League Wrestling right now on Saturday afternoons, mostly at noontime, if you will, that basically is aired during a marathon of, back-to-back-to-back episodes of Dark Side of the Ring, which again is their critically acclaimed wrestling documentary that they have going on, which is in its third season, I believe the second best option outside of Paramount, should, AEW not continue at WarnerMedia after 2023, 2024, especially with this Discovery merger situation, the second option is Vice. Vice TV to me would be probably one of the best options out there, second best option out there, because again, it's dipping its toes into wrestling. It's in its third season of its critically acclaimed, behind the scenes documentary series of Dark Side of the Ring. It just incorporated MLW into its lineup. So to me, Vice TV would be the second best landing spot for them if they wouldn't be able to get on the number one choice, in my opinion, Paramount. And again, to me, the viewership for Vice, when it comes to wrestling is off the charts. So if you add something like not Impact, but AEW to its forte, it's a win-win for Vice and wrestling fans overall, because not only do you have the Dark Side of the Ring series on that network, along with another promotion on that network that could potentially work with AEW as a partner, but you would have AEW itself. So to me, when I look at potential landing spots, the second best choice out of Paramount, outside of Paramount and everything, is Vice TV. I know some people may disagree with that, because some will say not everybody has Vice. But from what I could tell, just by, the series being critically acclaimed and everything, that being Dark Side of the Ring, Vice is seen in probably more homes than we can even expect. So, to me, I think the second best choice would be potentially Vice TV, if they don't get onto something like Paramount, if they don't get renewed after 2023, 2024. So to me, the second best choice is Vice. There's no doubt, in my opinion, that'd be the second best option for them. The third best option, in my opinion, is if you really want to show that you've arrived and basically show that you're ready to take on a bigger audience, then I think obviously the third best choice, believe it or not, is the CW. Now I know some people would say that not many people watch the CW, but when you really think about it though, it gets watched more than we think, we really think it does. I mean, it's got shows on there that people like, especially if you're fans of the DC superhero shows like, Green Arrow, like Arrow and Supergirl, and Lois, and like the new Superman series as well. So to me, the CW, I think, would be the third best landing spot, especially if you really want to show that you've arrived, that you're ready to play with the big boys. Because you can't tell me that Tony Khan and AEW and those running AEW don't see what's going on with SmackDown and Fox and see the viewership numbers kind of increasing almost weekly at times recently, if not over the past several months, with SmackDown being on that, broadcast, channel, and getting all the viewership it can. You can't tell me that they're not kind of envious of that. They're not kind of jealous of that, and they kind of want to have a piece of that pie. So to me, if they want to go that route, the third best option, I should say, is the CW. Now the reason it's the third best, because even though it is on a bigger platform, broadcast television and everything, everybody sees it, no matter what kind of cable package or regular television, over the air, whatever that you may have, everybody gets the CW, just like everybody gets Fox. So to me, the third best option would be the CW. That way you could show that you've arrived and that you're ready to play, if you know what I mean. But the reason, like I'm trying to say, that I pick it as the third option is due to the fact that, even though it still falls under the WarnerMedia outlet and it still keeps them within the WarnerMedia family, that it may have to be pretty much changed up a little bit to where it might be favorable if a change happens, and it may not be. Because if they go from, let's say, TBS to CW, potentially they may have to change their schedule, because the executives and all that of WarnerMedia and Discovery and Together eventually have a different outlook and mindset than those at Fox. And they may not want, 2 hours of AEW on Wednesday nights. They may say, nope, 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 we're not having 2 hours of AEW. Instead, we're only going to have an hour. Or we're going to have an hour and a half. And that's it. That's it. Now, some people may say that works better because, you get the matches that you want to focus on out of the way, and you feature the stars that need to be featured more prominently, especially if they're in storylines, better than you are right now. But again, it's up to whatever they decide to do. They may decide, like I say, just go for an hour because that's what we're kind of accustomed to with a lot of the shows right now as we speak. A lot of the shows from Supergirl, Riverdale, Arrow, Flash, and all that, they're all an hour long. So I would assume that if they do end up on the CW as a third option, then basically they're going to have to expect a lot of changes to occur. Because to me, if WarnerMedia keeps them on board after the merger, but they have to be moved off TBS and then probably over to, CW to get that wider audience, they may say, hey, reduce it down to an hour or reduce it to an hour and a half and only extend it to 2 for special programming. That might be the only thing that works for them in their favor to remain with WarnerMedia and to get onto a bigger viewership platform as far as broadcast television is concerned. So to me, number 3 is the CW. But if that ends up being the case, expect some changes that may, in some fans' eyes, play in their favor. Number 4, and I think it's kind of likely, but this is why it's in a bottom 5, if you will. Just basically the second to least possibility. But number 4 has to be ESPN. And I know some people are watching this and they're thinking, no way ESPN would take them on board. No way. Well, here's the thing though. ESPN has had a history of having wrestling on their network. They have had a history. And, then they're no strangers to wrestling, period, to broadcasting professional wrestling. They've done it with the USWA, with World Class, with AWA. They've broadcast a lot, even with Global Wrestling Federation. They've done it all. They've broadcasted very noticeable, under the radar, if not nationally, worldwide known promotions. So they're no strangers to wrestling. But the reason they're number 4 as like the second to least likely option is because they have a lot of sporting events that would end up causing, AEW to be preempted on various, if not on more than one occasion, unlike what's going on like with tonight. Like tonight, AEW is not going to be on because of the NBA playoffs. They've been rescheduled to this Friday for a live broadcast. So, if you think, them getting preempted on TNT is bad right now, imagine if they would end up on ESPN. It'd be even worse. So to me, even though it is an option because they've had a history with pro wrestling, I don't think it's going to be that likely. I mean, if they have no other choice, then yeah, I would agree that, ESPN would probably be a perfect fit for them if they had no other choice. But like I said, the thing that's going to detract them from even potentially going there is the fact that they'll end up being preempted more so than they are on TNT, as we speak. ESPN, broadcast NBA, college, MLB, MLS, NFL, things like that. They will make those broadcasts there are more of a priority than something like AEW would be. I mean, I remember back in the day, they would preempt AEW wrestling, not AEW, AWA, I should say, AWA wrestling, and even global wrestling that I would watch in the afternoon around noon, 1 o'clock, because of things like, let's say, college basketball or college football, like the bowl seasons. They would preempt them because those took precedent over pro wrestling. But honestly, again, like I said, if they have no other option, I could see them negotiating with ESPN to be put onto the network. I could see it. And the silver lining is I could see ESPN being someone that would be like, yeah, we We'll keep you 2 hours. We'll keep you 2 hours. No, don't worry about that. We'll keep you 2 hours. I could see them at least, agreeing to do that if they had no other choice. But yeah, ESPN at number 4 is the second to least option, should, they not remain with WarnerMedia and Discovery. All right, so the fifth option, which is probably the least option, the least likely area, even though they have 2 shows currently that go over, well over 2 hours or near well over 2.5 hours at times because of the immense of matches that they have involved. The least likely option would be right here on YouTube. And mostly with YouTube TV, YouTube Premium, you name it. YouTube overall is the least likely option. Because it's one thing for them to have, like I said, AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation that immensely has way too many matches and it goes almost near a pay-per-view length. To me, honestly, YouTube, even though it is a platform that can be viewed by anybody at any time, is a very unlikely option because of the fact that, to me, even though they can come out and say, they can come out and tell people that are subscribed to their channel, hey, this is when Dynamite's coming out, it's going to premiere live, at this time. That's fine and everything, but, people may get involved with other stuff. They may get involved watching something on television. They may get involved in watching something, off another streaming service. They may be out with family, whatever the case may be, and they may not be there to watch it live. I mean, they could have the phone with them or the portable device with them and watch it, but they may not even remember. And if they have a peripheral of subscriptions to other channels along with the subscription to AEW, then that's going to cause a problem too. So even though YouTube could be a great platform to bring Dynamite and Rampage to, I don't think it's going to be viable out of all the others I've mentioned before. Because one, like I said, you could schedule and say when it's going to come on, and yeah, people could catch up later on, and pause and do that when they feel like it. But the thing is, if people have a peripheral of other channel subscriptions, they've subscribed to see what's going on there, they may want to see what's going on there more so than anything else. Now, I'm not saying YouTube wouldn't be a great platform to go to if they didn't have any other choice. I mean, Impact Wrestling for a time had to go the internet route when they were trying to find a new broadcast home at one point, and it didn't help them. It really didn't help them. I mean, yeah, they let people know what was going on, but it didn't really help them until they got onto a broadcast or a cable network where people can view them. So to me, YouTube, even though it's widely available to everybody around, I just feel it's probably the least likely option they're going to go with, unless they have no other choice. Unless they have no other choice outside of the 4 that I've mentioned, that being Paramount, that being Vice, that being CW, ESPN. If they have no other choice, then yeah, they're going to have to work with something like YouTube. But to me, I just don't see it being a good option. So to me, number 5, basically the last one, being the least likely, even though it's available to everybody, is YouTube. And to me, even though it's a great platform and everything, I look at the numbers and it takes days for people to fully view, through multiple viewings, view from start to finish things like AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation. So you can imagine that they would do the same thing with Dynamite, and that won't help AEW Dynamite or even Rampage in any way, shape, or form. So number 5, very least unlikely option, unless they have no other choice, is YouTube. And that, folks, is basically my opinion. Again, my opinion as to where I think AEW Dynamite and Rampage could land outside of WarnerMedia and Discovery, or outside of WarnerMedia and Discovery after the contract is up in 2023 with the optional 2024 as well. And again, the reason I say this is because when you have to take into consideration that although they have all this happening right now, they have this new contract and everything written up, it's still set to expire around 2023, with the optional 2024. It's still set to expire around that time frame. And and on top of that, you got to take into consideration, like I said, this eventual merger between Discovery and WarnerMedia that could basically, in the long run, decide that they don't want wrestling, as part of their, future. They could come out and say that, with all due respect, AEW is pulling in some great numbers, for them, but, wrestling, they just don't see AEW, in wrestling in general as something that, they feel could be a good part of the future, and they could decide not to renew. Again, I'm not saying they're not going to renew. All right, let me make that perfectly clear. I'm not saying they're not going to renew. I'm just saying that there is a very likely chance, maybe slight likely, but very slight likely chance they could decide after the merger is done that, after its contract's up in 2023 and 2024, that they may not want to renew, and because they don't feel AEW wrestling is going to, be a profitable part of the future, and decide they want to wash their hands of it. And you know what? It wouldn't be the first time WarnerMedia did this to a wrestling company. Let's not forget that. But that's all depending on what, solutions, what ideas, what programming they feel will fit into the potential new directive that they want to go in after the merger is completed in the middle of next year, or at least expected to be. But what do you guys think? Do you think, honestly, that WarnerMedia will keep a hold of AEW, that they will renew? I mean, I'll be honest, I hope they do. I hope they remain with the WarnerMedia and the Turner Networks, because it is a great platform and it has a historical wrestling significance behind it, for it to basically remain there, to remain part of it. But what do you guys think? Do you think they'll remain, or do you think potentially they may have to go elsewhere? And what do you guys think of the options that I came up with as potential, landing spots for them outside of WarnerMedia? Let me know what you think down below, as well as in the live chat during the premiere, and I will talk to y'all later. But let me know what your thoughts are. Again, these are just my opinions. But let me know what your thoughts are, and I will talk to y'all later.